in our program, we focus on women's issues because women are particularly susceptible to low self-confidence in a man's world, but many of the practices we teach can help both men and women. So I'm just going to give you a taste of what it is that we talk about in our program, and I hope you enjoy it. So we begin by talking about the negative conditioning of women, which many men are not aware of at all, and some women are sort of peripherally sort of aware of. But our research shows that when compared to men, generally, women tend to perceive themselves as less confident, even if they're not. They behave in less confident manner, even if they're competent. They downplay their competence, even when proficient, and they doubt and criticize themselves. Of course, the good news, as we've heard, is that self-confidence can be built and maintained like a muscle, but it does require knowledge, effort, time, and discipline to be able to do this. But why do so many women suffer from a lack of self-confidence? This is because many women in most cultures are conditioned since infancy as to how they're supposed to be in the world, what their roles are, and the various aspects of their lives. So it really does begin in early life. Gender conditioning begins from continues through adolescence and into adulthood. So let me give you an example of how it would work. Let's say we have a little girl named Samantha, who's the only daughter, she's the only female child in the family. And her mother believes that a woman's physical beauty is the most important asset a woman can have. So this little girl, Samantha, keeps getting this message all the time while she's young. This is a very traditional idea, of course, which surfaces in many cultures. So she hears this from her mother, and then she sees on TV beautiful models and actresses. It's all about beauty. It's all about makeup. It's all about how they look. Then she opens a magazine and there's photoshopped pictures of beautiful women, once again, holding standards that are not possible for most normal women. And then we have social media. So by the time she becomes a tween, she's taking selfies, comparing herself to other little girls who all want to be beautiful. And this becomes a whole comparison game that is really emphasized by social media. So wherever she turns, this idea is completely emphasized and reinforced. As an adult woman, she then often struggles with self-confidence around whether she should speak up at work, whether she's attractive enough, and what she needs to do to be liked. So self-confidence in women is sabotaged due to a complex mesh created by negative gender stereotyping and disempowering conditioning, and the associated limiting self-beliefs, fears, self-protective behaviors such as not speaking up, striving to be perfect, which has been mentioned before, self-criticism, always comparisоnism, a low sense of self-worth, frequent self-doubt, and people-pleasing, which is a really huge one for women. So various studies, as well as our own personal life experiences, have demonstrated that self-minimizing messages, negative experiences, and the resulting fears and distorted thinking impact women's perceptions about who they are and how they're expected to behave in society. Disempowering messages, of course, come from various sources, as we saw. They come from parents, extended family, ethnic background, your culture, religion, formal education. The mass in social media is a huge influencer, and the workplace. We all know that women are still not paid the same as men for the same work, even in our Western society. So, of course, each person's life is different, as the environment that each woman grows up in is different. Some families and societies are not as restrictive as others, but for a large number of women, the same opportunities are not presented to them as they are for their male counterparts. So the sad result is that many women never discover their own inner gifts and talents and never develop the confidence to come out of their comfort zone, try something new, and a more empowering mindset. And of course, this is where our program comes in. Now, the origin of these self-sabotaging beliefs is because until around the age of 6 or 7, we're not in control of what gets recorded into our subconscious mind. That is because our young minds don't have any logical filters yet. they pretty much absorb everything as a sponge does. So a child's brain functions at the theta wave, which is the frequency we're at just before we go to sleep and as we wake up. It is also the state of hypnosis, deep meditation, and REM dream state. So in this state, any information gets directly downloaded into the subconscious mind. Faulty programming that sabotages women's self-confidence can also be created by various unfavorable life experiences. So such experiences may include times when things didn't go our way, when we were rejected, bullied, disliked, or ridiculed, we were sick, in trauma, crisis, or pain, or in the grip of very strong negative emotions. So I want to share with you a real life experience of how these kinds of beliefs are formed. At one point, I had a roommate, and I said to her, I'm making my mother's world famous chicken soup from scratch tonight. So that's what we're going to have for dinner. And she said to me, well, I don't eat soup. And I said, well, that's a very strange statement. How did that come about? Why don't you eat soup? And she said to me, well, once when I was 11, I had a meal and I got very sick after that. And my mother thought it probably was the soup. I said, well, what kind of soup? What were the ingredients? She said, I don't know. I just don't eat soup. So because this probably innocent soup got connected in her mind to the pain of her suffering when she was sick, she decided that eating soup subconsciously, that eating soup was going to make her sick. So that's how these kinds of beliefs get formed without our even realizing it. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to challenge that and I'm going to make the soup and you're going to have some. And then we'll talk about this belief of yours about soup. So yes, needless to say, she loved the soup. She actually wanted the whole pot to herself, but we negotiated on that. So I was able to have some too. Her belief about soup completely changed because we brought it up to consciousness. And now her and her husband make all sorts of soups all the time. The reason that most of the time we operate from our subconscious mind. I'm sure you've all seen this graphic before, showing the conscious mind, which operates 5 to 10% of the time. The rest of the time is the subconscious, which operates 90 to 95% of the time. And the subconscious doesn't have any filters. There's no logic. There's no reason. In my friend's mind, in her subconscious mind, came the idea, soup will make me sick. It was downloaded and that was it. And that program kept running that part of her life without her even realizing this. So our consciousness, which is the part of the mind that you're using right now to watch this presentation, this is when it's conscious awareness. This is when we make decisions. This is when we self-reflect. This is when we look at things. So once we bring things to the surface, it really changes. Because a lot of what resides in the subconscious mind is not helpful or accurate because it was just downloaded. We do this by reprogramming the subconscious mind. So if a thought or idea or emotion or belief remains at the bottom of that iceberg, we're not aware of it. So that's why it's crucial to bring it to awareness, to bring these unhelpful beliefs to awareness, like I don't eat soup because it'll make me sick, and begin to transform them. Self-awareness is the key, and we have several exercises in our program that help our participants become aware of sabotaging structures that are embedded in their subconscious that they're not aware of. So we help them change their unhelpful beliefs to ones that are supportive and empowering. So the women we have worked with learn how to stop the self-sabotage and adopt the mindset that allows them to become more confident, which of course has been mentioned earlier tonight. It is about mindset. We help them conquer unhelpful fears and find courage to do the things they wanted to do, but were always afraid of. We help them to overcome the urge to be perfect and to judge themselves and compare themselves. And we focus instead on personal best. We also help them foster a healthy sense of self-worth, which enables them to stay strong in the face of judgment and setbacks. So we work with resilience. And we also encourage them to speak and act with confidence and know that there is no failure. There's only self-growth through the lessons that are learned in life.